round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of December 14th. I'm Nicole Lairdix, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
And Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for that day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes worrying about something or other. Wednesday is complaint day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we would like to not so fondly reminisce about final exams, since some of our kids are in the midst of them, and some kids, like Terry's, don't have to be in the midst of them right now. You are free of that, but maybe you can help us with the conversation anyway, because not only are we going to touch on the topic of how final season is going for our kids and how they're handling it versus maybe how the way you handled it. So, Terry, maybe you can definitely pitch in there.
All right.
We would appreciate your contributions.
Probably not, but we'll make it anyway.
So let's start, I guess, first with, it's final season for our college, high school kids. I have 2 that are doing finals, and they've actually, I'm kind of impressed with how their, maturity has definitely helped one of them in terms of preparing ahead of time and not doing things at the last minute. So things are going relatively smooth there. The other one, of course, is still learning that planning ahead is essential.
Are you diplomatically not saying which one is which?
You can probably guess. But in terms of, in terms of handling it, like the older one that has more years of experience with this stuff, I would say I was a little bit more like him in terms of, like, I had to make sure I gave myself time. So the stress didn't come from studying at the last minute. The stress came from making sure I gave myself enough time. So I would start studying weeks ahead of time, because I would be so stressed that I would run out of time. So it was kind of like this weird, whereas my daughter is pretty comfortable doing things, in the last couple days, which I could never do. And my husband's like that too. So they're definitely, it's definitely interesting to see how they're doing it. But I just wish though that I had all the access to the stuff online, because I just remember going to the library and, trying to find resources at the library. And, I guess I'm just like, they're so fortunate to have that stuff online. Plus they're also doing study groups with other people online. So, which was something that we never really did. I don't know why. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at these days. It's definitely an interesting, and especially as they get older and they're in different stages in their life. Like one's in medical school and one's in, in her junior year, or her sophomore year of university. So, it's interesting to see how they're adapting to what stage of life they're in. Yeah,
and then there's the whole, disrupted school situation going on now, too, where you're taking your final online instead of in a classroom for a lot of kids. That would be weird.
My daughter had one, she's been home now since before Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving. And last week, I think it was early last week, she missed a class because she's like, I feel like I'm at home, like I'm on break. I'm not at school. So I got all mixed up on my schedule and where I was supposed to be when. So
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, so that's happened with her. I mean, she's always been pretty diligent and conscientious, so I don't have to worry too much about her, but she has set up a tent in the basement and made like a whole like nest in there, and she calls it her Christmas fort because it has Christmas decorations. And that is where she is doing her work, at least today.
Whatever works, fun. Right?
Yes, that's my feeling. Whatever works. Because, I mean, she has always been, and I think I've talked about this before, she really prefers to study elsewhere, not at home.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
She likes to go to the library or Starbucks or just anywhere but her own room. So
this stinks.
This stinks for her. So her alternative is her Christmas fort that she created in the basement.
Now, in terms of planning ahead, is she somebody that does it fairly last minute, or is she?
She's pretty good. Like she had, for one of our things that she's had to write a paper, and she was like, okay, I'm going to do a half a page today and a half a page tomorrow, and she spaced it out so that she could finish it. And also, I think it was due in 2 stages. Like the professor told them, do the first draft by this date, and then the final draft will be due later. So the professor kind of forced that on them, which was good. To make them not leave it all for the last minute. So, but just today she was like, I finished this and I'm working on that. And I have a project I have to do where I have to, come up with a psychology experiment, like design an experiment and do a presentation about it and record myself presenting it and all this. Like she was telling me all the steps and all the details of it, and she hasn't started that yet. So, she's not perfect, but she says she feels that she can do it. And she, like I said, she is pretty conscientious. So I think she will. I hope so.
Yeah.
There was a Kathy cartoon that I used to have taped up over my desk. You remember Kathy? I don't know if she's still anywhere, but Kathy is saying to her coworker, she's describing this huge work project she has to do, and there's all this stuff, and it's due tomorrow. And Kathy, what are you going to do? And she says, well, I'm going to get up early and do it in the morning. That's pretty much was my modus operandi. Yes, I was terrible. I think I talked to you recently about my bad work habits. Mm-hmm. They started in school. I was really bad at studying. I'd write my papers at the last minute and get A's on them and drove my friend crazy. And I would not study. I was so bad at studying. I hated it, and I would do it at the last minute and not do it well. And I always did fine on the tests. So that is probably bad preparation for life. But I've managed to make it work for me. I still do stuff. I still have lousy work habits, but I get it done. And I would, I took a test once in college where I didn't know what the answer was. So instead of writing the short essay, I wrote a short story about discussing the various possibilities. And I think I got a good grade just because the TA was probably happy to have something different.
Something unique to read.
Yeah. Once.
Oh, I had that happen to me too. Yeah. I was supposed to write about literature in the 19th century. So I wrote about literature in the 1900s. That was a big oops.
One time I had an English professor who said, if somebody wants to, instead of taking the final exam, memorize the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner and write it down.
Oh.
And I did that. I don't think he expected anybody to take him up on it, but I did. I wish I still remembered it, but I forgot it immediately after.
Water, water everywhere.
Yep. The very boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink.
Yep.
I could say the whole thing. And of course, I would take hours and days and focused concentration memorizing the stupid poem. But could I have studied that amount of time for the test?
No.
Nah, studying's boring. So, I mean, I had this thing that worked for me, and then I have my kids who both have learning problems, and they could not do something so quickly, and I was sort of powerless to help because I didn't have any good habits myself. So I would obsess about everything terribly whenever they had tests. They didn't much care, and I would be, oh my gosh, you got to study. How do you study? I don't know. Why don't I just read this to you and then flutter around going, study? So, but I'm very happy my kids are out of school.
I'm glad that
so over-invested in their schoolwork and in their finals.
I really hope that when my son gets to college, I will not be present for the final exams. Because I'm not going to be
Let's just be clear. You're hoping he's at school taking the final exams, not that you will no longer be around.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. I hope that we are not living in the same four walls
yes,
at
okay.
that time, because that will not go well.
Let's clarify.
No.
Yeah.
There needs to not be a pandemic at that time, so he can be
right.
at
Yes.
school.
Yes, I have done what you would have to do if he was not at school, and it was not fun. So,
the other thing that, thank goodness for modern technology, because my daughter just yesterday or the day before spilled water into her laptop.
oh no!
And so she has to let it sit for 48 hours. Right during finals, but everything is on the cloud, so she can just pick up a different machine and go
that's
from there.
Nice.
So,
yes,
but yeah, the timing was was not good on that one.
Yeah, but boy, has the cloud saved our butts. Because I did the same thing last Thanksgiving. I spilled water on my laptop and got a new one, transferred everything over, went right about my business.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
So,
yeah, she had upgraded, got a new MacBook before she went to school and sold her old one to her brother. So she had to repossess it for the time being until she gets done with finals or until she can get back to her old one. So, or her, her new one is sufficiently dry. So
how are they doing finals online? Are they just allowing everything to be open book? Because there's no way they can know that people aren't using their notes.
There are some like proctoring services. I think that some schools are using, but yes, I think there's a lot of open book.
That would certainly be the easiest.
For my daughter's Spanish class, one part of their grade was that they had to do a conversation with a partner on Zoom, while the professor was there,
wow.
They were given a very, very long list of topics in advance. And then the day of, I think they were randomly paired and randomly assigned a topic. And then they had to have a conversation about it.
Well, that's a really clever use of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Well, I know with my daughter, they use a program that monitors your eyes and where you're looking.
Oh, man. So if you have ADHD, you're just bleeped.
Yeah. It does some sort of it's some kind of program that it can somehow monitor if you're looking at notes or a book or something.
Yikes.
It seems, I feel like they should
sounds fallible.
They should just make everything open book because that's also real life. You don't have to do your work projects or whatever without access to references and resources.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so then as soon as she's done with her finals, my daughter will be getting her wisdom teeth out. So.
Oh,
it's that time of year.
So it's either way, it's pulling teeth.
Yep.
That's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll obsess about she sheds, and then on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundabout Roundup picks this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.